start us off, Danny, you just mentioned full disclosure, and we have gotten the question, what is considered full disclosure?
Well, full disclosure is actually revealing everything that our United States government and this legacy program has come to know about the UFO phenomenon and the non-human extraterrestrial beings that are responsible for the UFO phenomenon. That's what this full disclosure is just with regard to the U.S. government right now. And that's the most that we as American citizens can hope to compel them to reveal. But their intention very clearly is to control the disclosure so they can retain some of the key information. There's the old saying in the intelligence community, the best way to safeguard a secret is to pretend that you're revealing it. Right? So everybody goes, "Oh, good, we finally found out that you," but that's not what their plan is here. Their plan is to reveal part of the information. Oh, there's all these craft flying around here. Oh, yes, okay, that they're obviously a technological device. Yes, they're coming from our galaxy, et cetera. And that's as far as they're going to say. And what they're going to try to conceal from us a whole lot of information. We can touch upon some of it a little bit later. Uh, but the full disclosure is going to also require that we get full information, in addition from the U.S. government, also from Russia, also from China, who have programs working on all of this. They're clearly, almost certainly in direct communication with one or more of these species, such as we are. I say we, our United States legacy program. So that's going to constitute really full disclosure. And this full disclosure is going to open onto this psychic issue. This is one of the things that they're most concerned about, because the psychic ability of the ET beings and the ability of them to amplify it to such an extent that they can bilocate entire craft from their distant star system, 250 billion light years away to our solar system, is an astonishing technology. But it's the psychic capacity of the beings themselves that they have in common with us, that is so crucial here, and that they're trying to figure out how to get control over that. Okay, so that's the full disclosure. We can extract it from our government, but we're going to have to get it also from these other countries, and I would point out from the spiritual communities, the Roman Catholic Church, especially, and other major religious denominations who know that, not so much that they know that the ETs are real, which the Vatican clearly does, but they know that our human species has these latent capacities, these psychic spiritual capacities that they've not allowed to be fully developed. They confine the development of these particular faculties to monasteries, into convents, where especially gifted beings can actually evolve these kind of spiritual faculties to help share insights, which they share with the institutional church. And the institutional church tries to translate these into doctrines, just they can share with people in the general population. But full disclosure will come, and our job at the New Paradigm Institute is both to accelerate full disclosure as much as possible, but at the same time to take steps to make sure that the institutions of our planet are being amended and modified to be able to absorb this information and to successfully use it for the benefit both of all of our people on our planet and for our relationship with the extraterrestrial beings. So that there's a process, a responsible process, but it is much more rapid and much more thoroughgoing than that which the national security state intends to do, left uncoerced, basically, by our organizing, which Sarah will tell you about. You have to unmute, Sarah. Sarah, you have to unmute.
No, I just appreciate so much what you're saying, Danny, and I'm just waving my hand a little bit so we get to the next question.
Okay. All right. Next
Thank you.
question.
And there are so many good questions. We have, let's see, almost 90 questions right now in the Q&A. So just going to state now, we will likely not get to all 90 today, but we're going to get to as many as we can and keep coming back. We're doing this more weeks. So if your question doesn't get answered today, please come back. Please get everyone you know to come back so we can grow this and get more and more people here. Okay, Julia says this movie will no doubt touch many people, experiencers and others, emotionally in powerful ways. How can we as an organization help support our society collectively face the big emotions involved with the reality that we're not alone?
Well, yes, go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to that. We realize that, first of all, we realize that it's going to take several different tactical plans and programs to really bring full disclosure into being. And so we have a multifaceted campaign that is informed by many campaigns that Danny and I have done together for the last 40 some years throughout the country. And so we're bringing all of our knowledge together and putting it into the tactical plan for this disclosure campaign. So we're not only working on the Congress, and we have a regular educational program going with the staff of Congress people and the Congress people themselves. We have the building of a grassroots movement called Citizens for Disclosure. We're working in 42 or 3 states now. And these are teams of people on the ground all over the country who are taking information as we uncover it and distribute it and moving it into the communities. And they are also on campaigns to call their congresspeople, do Zooms with them, visit them, and tell them, as voters, I am interested in disclosure, and it's going to matter to me in November when we have elections. So we have a whole pledge campaign going, asking the various candidates of any party to commit to disclosure if they get elected in November. And we are also doing education and research, and our website is a tool. It's a powerful tool for activism, for education, and for the research and accumulation of research, important, credible information for people so they can understand this issue in the midst of what can be a lot of information flying around that is not that grounded. So we're trying really hard to be a source of grounded information for the people. Now, we are now moving into the issue of consciousness in a much more planned way, because at this phase of disclosure, we are moving rapidly towards being able to realize as a humanity that the things that Danny is saying about the ET capacities are true, and that they gave some of these gifts to the two protagonists of the movie, the young woman and the young man. He got the reason, she got the empathy, and so what we're working now with organizations that have long histories of consciousness research, scientific research, into this whole area of these special capacities that we as humans have, but have just not been generally developed in the larger society. So, and we are saying to ourselves and to all of our CFDers around the country, we need to be, to the best of our ability, examples of a new consciousness. That is necessary for us to walk the talk and not just talk about it, but walk it. And so our CFD groups that are forming all over the country, they have certain principles that they're operating on. One is respect for all people who come, no matter what political party or religion or whatever, respect for them coming into the Citizens for Disclosure. Everyone who wants disclosure is a friend of this campaign and is welcome in the campaign. We're also being respectful of people there so that we can hear them and listen and discuss and grow our understanding as a community that is empathic, but is also looking logically at what's credible, and therefore using our reason, and doing our best to stay at what we would call higher frequencies of collaboration and community. And we're avoiding, to the best of our ability, negative down loops that as humans we often get into. So I would that's just, I mean, maybe I took too long to answer that, but that's us trying to walk the talk
Okay,
ourselves.
let me add a point to, and we're also in the process of beginning a dialogue with people who are professional psychologists
Right.
in the medical field to try to get them to stop characterizing people who believe UFOs are real as mentally ill. And to actually develop an entire professional response on the part of the psychological community, professional psychological community, to be able to provide counseling for people who are traumatized by this change in their ultimate sense of reality, because there are some more revelations that are going to be coming about the capacity to direct intention into the quantum field to be able to affect reality itself, which is really quite destabilizing for people. And so, therefore, what we're beginning to develop right now, we're involved in an actual conversation with some people about getting a major grant to set up a program to actually try to get a special category of emotional distress put into the psychological catalog of a form of treatment, so that they can develop a form of counseling and assistance to allay people's emotional distress, fears, etc., ranging all the way from just being afraid of the other beings because they look so different, to try to overcome the kind of brainwashing that's gone on in bad science fiction movies, that they're all coming here to eat us, to overcoming their hostility toward the national security state for having kept a secret for so long, wanting to engage in a big, huge fight with them. What we've got to do is we've got to have a program of counseling, not in a patronizing kind of way, but in a social services kind of way, to have people have access to counselors to be able to make it through some of the more distressing aspects of this disclosure process. So that's a particular project that we're working on, and we're in communication, as Sarah pointed out, with people like IONS, the Institute of Noetic Science, that have been working in this field for like 40 years, trying to get people to understand the psychic capacities that people have, the whole human potential movement. We are working closely with these people, all together in partnership or in alliance, to provide these kind of assistance to the people of our world as we come to grips with this extraordinary new reality.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Danny. We have a couple questions that are kind of connected, so I'm going to ask them both. Emma says, do you think the film is part of actual disclosure? The scene with Jane talking with the nun on the phone felt like it was taking particular care to reassure people of faith that the existence of NHI does not need to shatter their worldview and can coexist with their faith. So that's Emma saying, is this a part of disclosure? And similarly, Aubrey said, do you think the release of the UAP files was purposefully coordinated with the release of the film? Seems to be too much of a coincidence. So how much of the film do we think is planned in connection with disclosure?
Okay, that we don't have any information indicating that Steven Spielberg himself is an active, conscious participant in the disclosure process, pursuant to any kind of outreach to him from the CIA or the DIA, or actually even any of the whistleblowers. That the great beauty of the whole thing is that he, like a lot of us, have just come to this naturally in his own life. Of his own direct experiences, as he has pointed out in his major, he had this major 26-minute interview with Ben Mankiewicz, the former narrator for the Turner Classic Movies. You can see it on YouTube. It's a 26-minute interview by Ben Mankiewicz of Steven Spielberg. where he admits he's never had a direct encounter with even a UFO or anything, much less a direct face-to-face meeting with any ETs. But he, because there's this rising consciousness collectively in our entire human family to want to have this information, that we believe at the New Paradigm Institute that this is just coincident in a very special way with the rising interest that the people have in this issue. Now, with regard to this, both Emma and Aubrey's question is that I don't believe that this is. I don't believe either that the people who are engaging in the whistleblowing, Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon and Jim Lukaski and others, Jay Stratton. I don't believe that they were trying to rush out to get all this information out, much less Donald Trump to rush to get their disclosure process going because the movie's coming out. I don't think either one of them has controlled the other in this case. I think that it's just direct evidence of the mutual rising of consciousness of people that realize that the time has come to get this done. Because, as the movie suggests, because of this ever increasing threat of a potential thermonuclear war. This is something that the ET beings have been warning us about from the very beginning. There are hundreds of examples of people who've had the direct face-to-face engagements with the ET beings who have been explicitly warned telepathically by the beings, please, you've got to do everything that you can as citizens to get rid of the thermonuclear weapons. Not just us, but Russia and China, and keep the other countries from doing this as well. This has been a major warning. So that I think that because of the increase in the threat, for example, the scientists now who have done the doomsday clock, have increased the moved up the hand on the doomsday clock to being 85 seconds before midnight now. This is at a more crucial threat level than even during the height of the October missile crisis back in 1962, with Russia, being engaged in a military conflict, losing 30,000 soldiers every single month. The Ukraine losing 20,000 every single month, and the elements inside the United States proposing that we move our nuclear missiles up into the front lines, of the former republics that have now been released from the USSR, and move them now into NATO and actually move missiles up to the western boundary of Russia. This is an extraordinarily dangerous period of time. They understated it somewhat in the movie that you can just barely notice that, oh, by the way, there's a potential thermonuclear war getting ready to happen, in the movie here. But this, I think, is what is feeding the consciousness of everyone collectively to try to get this information out. And Lou Elizondo has made reference more specifically to something in his book Imminent, that there's something imminent that is going to be happening that's going to make it important for as much of this information to be in our hands of the human family as possible. And we're in the process at the New Paradigm Institute of trying to ascertain what it is that they're referring to, so that we can evaluate the probability of something like that happening, though we don't have any specific data on it yet.
Thank you, Danny. So Brandon says, Disclosure Day showed a captured alien. Are we in contact with a live alien currently? Tell us about it.
Oh, yes. Yeah, more than one. More than one. It's perfectly evident, and I've had direct conversations with people deep in the program who acknowledge that we have forced down a number of UFOs, that we have developed some type of electromagnetic pulse weapon that can actually interfere with the navigation system of one of the UFOs if they get it targeted appropriately, and they forced it down to land, and they've taken the live occupants, into custody. And that you see that terrible scene, which actually Daniel designates, even to Jane, is what triggered him into deciding he's going to have to reveal these archives, was this kind of tortuous process pursuant to which a particular ET being was being forcibly interrogated. Uh, Now, there's been some indication that there were efforts of that kind made early on, but it became very obvious to our people that they shouldn't do that. And it became obvious that the ET beings were perfectly willing to engage in dialogue with them, as was demonstrated back in 1964. April 26th of 1964, when three of the UFO vehicles came to Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico and hovered over the tarmac. One of them landed, and one of the ET beings, a humanoid being, non-human, got out of the craft and actually engaged in face-to-face dialogue with two high-ranking United States Air Force uniformed military officers and two other U.S. government people, probably CIA. And I had a long conversation with Edgar Mitchell himself, whose best friend, whom I gleaned to be Cooper, Gordon Cooper, told him about having seen the film of this that was taken there. So that there's direct face-to-face communication with live ET beings, not just with our average civilian population, but with the United States government officials. And I have had a long bedside deathbed confession coming from a fellow by the name of Oscar Wolf, who was part of the Project Blue Book that was actually present during one of the interviews, a voluntary interview on the part of one of the ETs with government officials. So we know that conversation is in fact going on. We have access to in communication with live ET beings, and they are in communication with. And in fact, very recently, you may see that there was an interview of Lou Elizondo by Julian Michaels and her podcast called Keeping It Real, which you can look up on YouTube, in which Lou Elizondo specifically said that he has been in direct communication with the highest levels of people in the U.S. intelligence community and military community who have confirmed to him that they swear by reports pursuant to which there's U.S. military aircraft, helicopters, and jet fighters escorting real UFOs. And other reports, which he said they swear by the validity of our U.S. scientists and some military personnel working side by side with actual extraterrestrial beings. Now, Lou didn't say, I know it because I was there, I've seen it, but he said that he has spoken with people who have proven to be completely reliable sources for him in the past, who have swear by the reports about this. So the answer is that we are in communication with the beings. We do have face-to-face communication going with them, and that there are live ET beings that are communicating with our United States government. And we can assume that they're also communicating with the Russian government and with the Chinese government. Okay, so this is much farther down the line than people have willingly recognized so far, and that's got to be part of full disclosure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon.
All right. TT asks, can you please list the content in the film that overlaps with what has happened in reality? The technology in the film, how many of them are real, and will they be disclosed?
Yes, the some of the major overlapping aspects of the film are, number one, that there's been this long campaign on the part of the military intelligence community of the United States government and the private aerospace corporations represented by war decks here to not only conceal the information, but to take repressive steps against others, including violence, to suppress their ability to share this information with the outside world. That's number one. Number two, the reality that the UFOs are real, to be clear, and that they're actually piloted by real live physical corporal UFO beings. Okay, and that we are in possession of one or more of these UFO beings who are in communication with us. that the beings have access to this psychic capacity, and that there is a technology, not a handheld technology. I would differentiate it. We have no evidence that there's some kind of handheld device by means of which it can amp up your psychic ability. No matter who tries to sell you these things, as soon as the film is over. you know, the bottom line is that there is a technology. They call it psionic assist. This is one of the initial secrets that they've worked so hard to keep secret, is that there is this psionic assist technology that the beings have. And that they are capable not only of transiting from their star system here to our star system with this almost instantaneously, but the fact is they can use it to project unconscious communication to people, telepathy at a distance. As that. And we know directly from information that we have firsthand access to that the national security state people, Hal Puthoff and others that were involved in the Stanford Research Institute remote viewing capacity, they have a technology which they haven't quite mastered yet, but they have a technology by means of which they can amp up or amplify the capacity of a given individual human being to engage in telepathic communication. They did this with Pat Price, at a facility up in South Central Canada. That I've seen the above top secret files that show the details of that particular experiment, pursuant to which Pat Price was given access to the helmet that they recovered. I'm almost certainly that it's the helmet that they recovered from the craft at Roswell in July of 1947, where they would put this helmet on him, and it was able to amp up his psychic capacity to telepathically communicate. And he sent a telepathic communication to all of the people in the northern peninsula of Michigan, back in 1976 or 77. Or excuse me, 1976 or 77, a telepathic communication to people, which they received. Okay, so that we know that's another technology that's revealed in the movie, which is extraordinarily interesting because it's one of the most sensitive pieces of information that the government has gone to the greatest lengths to keep secret, because they're afraid that people are going to be going around doubting the validity and the sovereignty of their own thinking, and that's really very disquieting for people. Even though everybody knows somebody that thinks that they're getting messages from Mars on their molars, of, oh, I'm getting these, but the fact of the matter is that there is in fact a technology that can amp up this capacity, which you saw Noah Scanlon holding the device in his hand and using it as a weapon to try to invade the body of Jane, and to actually bilocate so that he could come and confront her and confront others. This we do not have any indication that the national security state people have perfected this technology in a manner by means of which they can project themselves physically into another place, even though it's extremely important to point out that our national security state people and our military people are trying like mad to empower their military people and spies to be able to actually physically astral travel and go into secret locations to be able to get access to intelligence information. So those things are true that are going on here. So those are some of the more obvious overlaps that are going on here, and of course there's the feature conceit of the movie is that there are elements inside even the deepest elements of the secret program who are struggling to try to get the information out. And that is true. And that's in the character of Daniel running around with copies of the the archives, trying to put them on national and international television. It hasn't gotten quite to, we don't have a Daniel Ellsberg Fortunately that I was involved with, as you know, the New York Times publishing the entire Pentagon Papers, because Daniel Ellsberg went through the grueling process of photocopying all 47 volumes of the Rand Corporation study of the Vietnam War. We don't have anybody yet who is in possession of all of this kind of unified archives. But we know that they put one together in the OSSEP program, the Advanced Weapons, the Advanced Aerospace Weapons Special Access Program, that Lou Elizondo and Jay Stratton and James Lukoski are part of. That they've got a huge archives of information, which they've even gotten from MUFON, have gotten their entire files of all the different sightings. So we know that there is sort of a centralized archives of a lot of this information, but we don't have any indication that any of our whistleblowers have access to the whole thing yet. But TT, that's just some of the major overlaps in the film and what we know to be the reality.
Great. Thank you, Danny. Mia wants to know, Danny, what made you become interested in disclosure of UAP and NHI in the first place?
Oh, well, that I was extraordinarily interested about it since I've been a child, because I once I realized what stars were, and that there were planets. I knew that there had to be planets going around these other stars. Once we knew that the stars were like a sun, and therefore there were going to be beings on a number of these planets. So I've always been extraordinarily interested in this. In fact, I told the United States Senator Jacob Javits when I was asked, I was applying to go to the United States Air Force Academy to become an astronaut. And when the Senator Jacob Javits asked me why you want to become an astronaut, I said, well, because this is an extraordinarily important period in our entire human history where we're going to be going out into outer space and get to meet these other beings from these other planets in our galaxy. And he said to me, what? You actually believe that there's beings on other planets in our galaxy? And I said, well, sure I do. I mean, you're a United States Senator. You must know this, you know. So I've been at this for a long time. And when I got the opportunity, when I was chief counsel at the United States Jesuit headquarters in the social ministry office there, back in the early or late 1976, when I was contacted by the National Archives and asked to become special counsel to their investigation, at the request of President Jimmy Carter, to do a major investigation of the ET reality connected with UFOs. That's when I began to become professionally involved in this. And because of that, I ended up becoming legal counsel for Dr. John Mack at Harvard University during the confrontation that happened there when they dragged him up in front of a faculty committee, in effect threatening to terminate his tenure for having published a book revealing that human beings were having direct contact experiences with UFOs and ETs. And I became legal counsel for the Disclosure Project of Dr. Stephen Greer for 20 years, and also served as general counsel for the citizens' hearings on UFOs with Stephen Bassett and others. And of course, more recently, legal counsel for Lou Elizondo, and a number now of other whistleblowers. And Lou Elizondo is the one who filed the official complaint with the United States Defense Department, complaining not only about the fact that they were lying about him and seeking retribution against him for having revealed some of these secrets, but that they in fact were lying to Congress and lying to the people of the United States, which is an absolute criminal violation, in a violation of the Constitution. And so I've been directly involved as an attorney and as a private citizen, and as a legal counsel at the Jesuit headquarters, because of the extraordinarily important spiritual dimension of all of this that coincides with these psychic capacities, these spiritual faculties that our human species has, and my effort to try to get the Vatican to share this information, which we're still involved with at the New Paradigm Institute, and are going to be working to try to get Pope Leo to come forward with this information if we can.
Thank you,
Thank
Danny.
you. Yeah.
Goodness, so many wonderful questions. There are, 120 right now that we still haven't gotten to. So let me keep going. Let's see here, Danny. We have a question from Shakti that says the film did not focus on the hybridization project. Can you comment on the validity of the hybrid theories? Based on the work of John Mack and others, it seems likely that by this point there could be many humans who have been affected by ET genetic modification.
Yes, yeah, yeah. You're right. It's interesting. It was not touched upon at all anywhere in the film, and the only time that any of the whistleblowers have been coming forward with any of this information was the interview that I referred to a little bit earlier, in response, I think, to Emma and Aubrey's or maybe Julia's question. That Lou Elizondo, in his interview with Julia Michaels on her podcast, keeping it real, he specifically talked about, among the other things, that he had had direct communication with high-level intelligence officials and military officials in the United States government who had proven to be completely reliable in their information to him in the past, that they swore by a certain number of reports. And one of these reports had to do with a hybridization program. He asserted that they were telling him that it was true, and they were convinced that it was true, that in fact a number of, but also that the MyLab, the military abduction program, was real. That the military and intelligence officials of our United States government, part of this legacy group, have actually been kidnapping private citizens who have had contact experiences, and that they're being kidnapped and involuntarily taken into custody and interrogated to find out what it is that the ET people have been saying to them, and what the craft looked like, and what kind of information did they have about the propulsion system, et cetera. But he also, very importantly, pointed out that the hybridization program is also real, according to these reports, which these high-level intelligence officials swear by being true. And that is the fact that a number of human females have been abducted and have had eggs removed, human egg cells removed from their body, and these egg cells have only 24 chromosomes, and they've been genetically spliced with some of the genetic material from the ET beings, and then have been replaced back into the womb of the woman so that she has become pregnant. And that she's been verified hospital records demonstrating beyond any doubt whatsoever, admissible in a court of law, that she was pregnant, even though she had not been with any man for over a year, some of these women. And therefore, they were completely freaked out about how this had possibly happened. And then at the end of the first trimester of their pregnancy, they're abducted again, and then they're no longer pregnant, and they've become extremely distressed in the face of this kind of imposition, this kind of intervention in their lives, which is outrageous. And that we're all taking every step that we can to attempt to communicate to the ET beings that they've got to stop doing this. This is totally invasive and unacceptable. But the bottom line is that one of the women who had this happen to her, Karen, who we were working with at John Mack's Project for Extraordinary Experience Research, the peer group, that she was so upset about this having happened to her that the next time when the ET beings appeared, she started throwing things at them. She threw a lamp at them, and threw a chair at one of them, and kicked one of them, and they were freaking out when they were over her. And so that John Mack and I had a long discussion about this, and we decided that it would be a good thing to have Karen get some of this training from Stanislav Grof in holotropic breathing, to be able to really calm down the next time she was going to have an encounter with these ET beings. And she went through the process, and she mastered the process of holotropic breathing. And the next time these three little buddies showed up in her living room, rather than throw chairs at them and stuff, she was very, very calm. And they were into this kind of, whoa, look out for her, kind of mode. But when they realized that she was in this kind of different state, They began telepathically communicating with her, and she asked to be able to go see her baby, which she was sure existed. And lo and behold, because of this extraordinary transition in her attitude toward them, they, according to Karen, brought her to her child, brought her apparently to their planet. They brought her on board and they had her get in this weird liquid, this kind of aqua gelatin kind of liquid thing, and breathe it in and stay underwater in here where she could be until they got to their planet, which bang bang happened like that. But then she was actually introduced to her daughter, who she was completely certain the instant she saw her that was her daughter. Uh, and so that program is very real. It's a source of great trauma. David Jacobs at I think Tulane or Temple University, has written about it and has really gotten upset about it. Still remains upset about it with justification, but that's a very real thing that's been going on. Now, the question as to what progress they've made on that. Karen, back in, this would be, let me see, 1995 or 1996, that we had this experiment going with Karen, Dr. John Max. And she said that her child, that was like 2 years old by that time or so, that you could tell that it wasn't a regular person. I mean, very thin, spindly hair, kind of big, huge eyes, that kind of go across to their temples. You could tell that this was not just like a normal human being, but had a lot of human features. So at that point, as of 1970, 1994, 95 at least, or 96, that species at least hadn't perfected the ability to genetically engineer a hybrid person who could walk among us or anything. Now, on the other hand, there is this weird element that exists, which also was not touched on in any way in the movie, that there is an assertion that there is a fifth species, in addition to the small grays, the tall whites, the reptilians, and the mantis people. There's the assertion that there's this other fifth species that looks just like us. Now, this is not a product of the hybridization program. This is an assertion that the Pleiades has around one of the major stars of the seven stars in the Pleiades, that there's a planet that has a species which are Homo sapiens, which is totally befuddling of the many befuddling things that are going on here with regard to this program, that they look just like us and that they can very clearly pass for human beings, except that their earlobes are extra long, you know. But the bottom line is that we don't at the New Paradigm Institute, we don't know about this one. That we had previously set up a meeting to meet with what's his head over in
Billy
Switzerland,
Myers.
Billy Myers, who has reported this most emphatically. But we haven't done that yet. But we're in the process of trying to get a meeting with Billy Myers to kind of test him out. Potentially, if he's willing to do so, go on a psychological stress evaluator, a huge, highly technological lie detector system that we have access to, to test his credibility on this once and for all. But the bottom line is the hybridization program does not appear to have evolved to the state where they've been able to generate a hybrid species that can move among us undetected. And nor is are any of our presidents ETs in disguise, nor are any of our United States senators, no matter how outrageous some of their policy positions may be, are also not ETs. That's not what's happening right now. But there is such a program that's going on. It's not clear what the purpose of the program is, just like it's not entirely clear what the purpose of their even coming here is all about. I mean, after all, as Carl Sagan, you say, we're just one planet on one star, in a vast galaxy, out on some distant spiral arm of the galaxy. So why are they coming here? What's so important about us? But there's a hint in the theme of the movie that it may be because of our ability to have developed at least to the stage where we can figure out thermonuclear weapons, And at the same time, we've evolved this compassion, this ability to have affection for other beings in a parallel. But we don't know yet. But we know that they're very interested in the genetic material of our planet. We've had hundreds of witnesses seeing them gathering flora and fauna, plants and animals in genetic material from cows and other things, and even from people. We know that that's going on, so we know that they're fascinated about the genetic material on our planet, which may well be one of the very important reasons why they're so concerned about a thermonuclear war on our planet, because a all-out thermonuclear war would mutate the basic genetic material on our planet. And if they're in the process of harvesting this genetic material, potentially for even as high a calling, conceivably, then we don't know this yet, conceivably seeding life elsewhere in the galaxy on other planets, where the planets have evolved to be able to sustain life, even though they're not able to gestate life, like our planet. That our planet is one of the comparatively rare planets that gestates life. And therefore, that may be why it's of such special interest, among others. Obviously, there are other planets that have gestated life because there are all these other species that come from other star systems. But we don't believe that they've perfected the genetic engineering program to be able to replicate human beings that are hybrids that can walk among us. We don't believe that yet at the New Paradigm Institute.
Great. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you, Shakti.
Alina asks, Danny, you are the only activist in the movement who talks not only about disclosure, but also about open contact as the inevitable next step following full disclosure. The film presents contact in the same way as a direct consequence of full disclosure. Can you elaborate on your vision for open contact?
Yes. Yeah. The vision of our institute is that we will be able to, as citizens of the country, and we represent American citizens are only 4% of the entire human population, but we have this unique capacity to have an effect upon our government because we're voters. And we can reach out to our congresspeople and tell them that you have to support full disclosure, or else we're going to vote for people who do, and not you. So you've got to do your job. You've got to get in there and exercise oversight over this executive branch that has been keeping this secret for over 80 years. That you've got to do this, and that we believe that we can be successful in generating a disclosure process which is both full and honest and comparatively rapid. We do not believe that it would be a good idea, as in Disclosure Day, of here, let's have the whole thing. Let's just dump it on you on one day. Let's have Disclosure Day where we put it up on all the television networks in the whole world, and then let's just see what happens. That's probably not a good idea. Now, that may well be a product of my, having studied foreign policy at Harvard College, in Harvard Law School, and even at Harvard Divinity School, being in a university setting that is part of an elite that wants to have some kind of quote responsible control over the information that is being made available to people. I don't doubt that may be a factor here, but. All of that being said, I do share a belief that this has to be done in a responsible way. And that may be what they're engaged in trying to do right now by this partial disclosure, this kind of slow drip drip thing that they're doing with these different tranches coming out. But I'm completely convinced that they don't intend to reveal everything. And so that we do intend to get everything revealed. And we do intend to have the Roman Catholic Church reveal everything that it knows about it. And we do want the Buddhists and the Hindus to come forward and reveal in a more clear way information that is in their scriptures about their knowledge of the extraterrestrial civilization that exists all around us. Okay, so the objective of our full disclosure movement is to generate open contact. With the extraterrestrial beings, to reveal what it is that they already know about these communications. For example, in Oscar Wolf's presence at this interview of one of the ETs, a voluntary interview on the ET's part, at S4 with him and his commander from Project Blue Book. That there were card files kept of interviews with this ET being. And in one of the card files, it said one of the questions that had been asked of this ET is, who are you guys anyhow? What are you doing here? And the ET being said that he said, am part of this group of beings from different star systems here inside the Milky Way galaxy that have been tasked to go to around our galaxy and where life has begun on different planets to monitor the state of development and to report back with this. And the follow-up question was, well, if you've been tasked to do this, who is it that tasked you to do this? And he said, the card file says the ET's response was, well, you people would refer to it as God, but it's very, very different than you think. Okay, and that was the answer to it. And Carl and Wolf Oscar Wolf refused ever to tell anybody about that because he didn't believe him. He thought the being was demonic and was lying to us and tried to put one over on us. And so he never told anybody until his deathbed, when he called me and asked me to come and see him up in northern Minnesota, at the hospice. And that's what he told me. Okay, so that open contact will in fact happen. It's in the process of happening now. And this, of course, may well be what it is that Lou Elizondo and the others are referring to as some imminent event, which is causing them to feel compelled to come forward to start revealing this information, because the open contact may be being triggered as a means of avoiding a thermonuclear war. And we can see the dangers of the thermonuclear war surrounding us, but we don't yet. It hasn't quite grasped. We haven't quite grasped it. We're still infatuated with soccer games in the World Cup and a fist fight, brawl on the White House yard today. Instead of the 500 people here that are watching this, there are all people watching people punch their brains senseless. So that there's ways to go still. There's a way to go still that we have, but we're planning to have full and open contact with the extraterrestrial species, and we believe, as Margaret Fairchild said, this is going to be beautiful. She said, "Come with me. This is going to be beautiful." And so she said at the very closing scene, "Listen, listen." And she was just getting ready to reveal the information that had been conveyed to us by the ETs when the film ended. And it's not clear whether Steven's planning a sequel where he opens with Margaret going, "Okay, now you're listening. Let me tell you what's going on here." But so we've got to get the information to Steven Spielberg so he knows what the content of the information is. That's our job at the New Paradigm Institute, among others. The UAP Disclosure Foundation, the Sol Foundation, IONS. The institute. What's the one? Love the Institute Robert, the one in Virginia.
Oh, the Monroe Institute.
Monroe Institute. Yeah, I missed that. So there's a lot of good faith people working to get this information out, which talks about not only the extraterrestrial beings having these capacities, but we as human beings have this capacity. And it's because of our commonality of having access to this faculty that we're able to communicate with each other. So we can communicate, and you can communicate with the beings. Here we go. He's going to go there. Let me suggest that we can communicate with the beings. We can, in a state of high consciousness, through meditation, and the secret is out. These little statues of these people sitting around in this kind of little Zen position that are in every culture. There's a secret there somehow that you can communicate with the extraterrestrial beings. Now, I'm not suggesting that this is an alternative or a substitute for your communicating with Jesus, with Mary, with the Buddha, or whoever it is that or with God, as that is nounified now in our culture. But you can communicate with the extraterrestrial beings. And it's your openness and your openness of your heart and the full engagement that you want to have with these beings that is the pathway to the communication. So we're sharing that with you today from the New Paradigm Institute, that we can in fact have contact with them, and we can have open contact with them telepathically. And you can actually summon, you can actually gather two or more of you together and sit out in the outdoors and summon them in the night, and they will come.
Thank you, Danny. We have a question from Pat. The movie is great, no doubt about it. However, it's a movie with a magic ending. In order for real disclosure to happen, will there be any amnesty or protections for those wanting to come forward?
Yes, yes. So that we've been asked to do that here at the New Paradigm Institute. We've been asked to draft a federal criminal racketeering act, federal complaint, because they know that we know how to do this. We did this in the Iran-Contra case. We are the ones that started dragging them into depositions, which generated their desire to publicly expose the fact that there was this operation going on, illegally shipping weapons to the Contras, that became the Iran-Contra scandal with Oliver North and all that. That I was involved in getting the Pentagon Papers published when people thought there was no possible way of doing that. So we have the ability to get that done, and so that we realize that what we don't want is we don't want the simple de facto grant of complete amnesty to all these people who have done all of this, because that if there's blanket amnesty to everybody, there's no real reason to believe that everybody's going to come forward, because their friends and stuff have been given amnesty, so they didn't come forward, so they're not going to come forward. I don't think open amnesty is going to be the way to get people to talk. What you have to have is you have to have a full, active, genuine federal criminal prosecution going on, pursuant to which individuals are granted immunity in exchange for their testimony, against others, to reveal what the criminal conduct is that they've been engaged in, so that we have a full catalog of all of the criminal activity that's been engaged in, the murders that have taken place, the kidnappings that have taken place, the suppression of the destruction of people's careers, of the destruction of their family life that they've inflicted on people to keep the secret, the embezzlement of hundreds of billions of dollars from legitimately appropriated funds for various programs in the military that have been stolen and secreted over to this program. These are all major federal crimes, to say nothing about the same exact criminal conspiracy for which the people in Iran, the Iran-Contra crisis, were in fact indicted by the special prosecutor, Lawrence Walsh, for engaging in a criminal fraud of defrauding the United States government, the legitimate government, the United States Congress, and the president, various presidents of the United States, of this information, in lying to them. That is criminal fraud. Okay, and the fraudulent activity that is revealed to the actual Office of Management and Budget, that you've seen that people are resigning from the Office of Management and Budget because of the discovery that there's access to these gold bullion shipments that are going on around the world. And we have a great deal of knowledge about this at the New Paradigm Institute. And so these crimes have to be paid for. We can't allow, once again, everybody to simply go free. They did it with Abu Ghraib and all the torturing that went on. There was only one woman, a young woman who was a corporal, who happened to have made the mistake of getting the photograph of her taken with the prisoner on a dog leash. She got reprimanded in court martial, but everybody else walked away free. Not only that, but the woman who was in charge of overseeing the entire program of the torture at Abu Ghraib was made to the director of the Central Intelligence Agency as a reward. We cannot allow that kind of systemic structural injustice to go on in our country. And we cannot allow everybody to walk free from what they have done. Now, all of that having been said, some substantial majority of the people who have engaged in criminal conduct over the period of the last 80 years have all passed away now. So there's not, but we're going to get a retelling of what it is they did, even if nothing can be done to them. But there are live people now who are actively involved in ongoing daily criminal conduct right now. They aren't showing any kind of contrition whatsoever for what it is they're doing. And they have to be held accountable for this. We're going to make sure we are drafting the federal criminal complaint. We're in communication with high-level officials inside the Justice Department at Main Justice in Washington, to get this to happen, we're going to continue doing this, and we're going to get full disclosure first, and we're going to then get the support for a major criminal prosecution of these people. And then we will participate, the citizenry will participate in making decisions as to who is going to be given any kind of prosecutorial immunity. Okay, this is a process that we have to set forth to do.
I would just like to say that it's really important that we're not talking about sort of revenge or
Right.
even serious punishment. What we're talking about is the investigation producing people who ask for immunity in exchange for telling the truth. What that does is that makes us free, because the truth does make us free. It's a very real process that with access to the truth, we can have the freedom that we need to decide our future in policy and in government action and etc. So, but it also makes the person free who has been caught, and you see that in the character at the end of the film, who the negative leader at the end of this film, sitting in
No,
the
Noah
chair.
Scanlon. Yeah, Noah
No,
Scanlon.
sitting in the chair and so basically surrendering, just not fighting anymore, not going down the negative spiral that he's been involved in throughout the entire film and throughout much of his life. He is now free because the truth is coming out, and he lost to the truth. And so this is this we see this as something that not only helps us when people ask for immunity and tell the truth, it helps them too.
Yeah, empathy is the forgiveness of others. But as is well known, in order to get genuine forgiveness requires genuine repentance. That there has to be a repentance on the part of these people for what they have done, and that coming from Jesuit headquarters, we're in the business of trying to understand this kind of thing of repentance. We know a legitimate confession when we see one, and we know one that isn't genuine. And so that it's the people who are genuine about this and who are contrite for what they've done. And there's a structural sin that they were born into. I mean, virtually all the people that are presently active operatives of this right now, were not even born when the events started happening over 80 years ago, or were so little that they weren't involved in it at all. But the bottom line is that those who have been captured by the structural sinful structures that have been put together by our national security state, are victims themselves. And if they can come to the full insight that this is what's happened to them, and that they can become free of that kind of mindset, then they can be forgiven. But those who are going to insist upon trying to transform the technologies into weapons, who are going to continue with the secret program, are going to continue to hide the information, there's going to come a point in time when they've gone beyond redemption, and they're going to have to pay the consequences. And we have to do this in a way that is compassionate, that is filled with empathy, but ultimately that we're going to have to deter conduct like this in the future, because if we're going to have a positive and constructive relationship with the extraterrestrial beings, there are going to be repeated instances of temptation on the part of major corporations, on the part of military people, people in our intelligence community, are going to be consistent, repeat opportunities for them to fall prey to this type of low consciousness thinking of trying to take advantage of the ET people, of trying to take advantage of those of us who've been willing to forgive them, and so it's our job. This is an extraordinarily high calling that we all have, is to make sure that we set up a system by means of which the process by which this information is going to be coming forward is done in such a way that this is not repeated in the future. And we know that the opportunities are going to be there for sinful conduct or conduct that is evil, that is pursuing personal wealth and military power and domination, is going to happen again and again. And so we have to prepare people against this, okay, by having lessons learned, and people to confess what it is that they've done, and be repentant for it. And if they're not, then they're going to have to be the ones that are examples, to stand as examples to people in the future, to reach out to them from this past, to let you know that this cannot be allowed by our human family. And this is going to be part of our passage into this next state of our evolution, to be able to become neighbors, friendly neighbors, and cooperative neighbors with the other people and other beings in our galaxy, that we overcome this kind of conduct. Thank you, Pat.
Yeah, great. Preach, Sarah and Danny. This is great. I'm pumped up. Let's see. I just want to let everyone know that is gathered here. We're going to put a link in the chat right now. DP, if you could put the Sunday series link in the chat. If you are finding today's conversation valuable, please help us spread the word for this Sunday series. Please invite your friends, your family members, your colleagues, everyone you know who might be interested in these topics. The more people that we can get here to engage with these issues, the stronger the push for disclosure is going to be. So we're going to get to one more question now and then hear closing words from Sarah and from Danny. We have a question from Leon. This has all been a reality for thousands of years and accepted by global indigenous people and multiple experiencers that have been ridiculed. What is the significance of this current time period? Why is this being disclosed now to our human family? Sarah, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I do think that if we look at what the ETs have communicated consistently to us over the last 80 years, and there's so many reports of this from people who have been on the ships in abductions or people who have just had direct contact out in the field where they live, or they have over and over again told us to stop developing these nuclear weapons. And many of the appearances have been around nuclear facilities. There's clusters of them, and perhaps the most stunning was in Maelstrom, in Montana, where there was a huge UFO that appeared over one of the missile bases, and there were 10 missiles independent of one another in that area, and they all started turning off. And Danny has interviewed all the men that were at the bottom of down deep in the earth in those missiles, and that were working there and understood what happened exactly that night. And the missiles were all turned off. It was clearly done by the huge UFO that was above one of the stations. And they were left off for a while until after a while they turned them back on. And it was just kind of like, look, you guys, we can do this if we have to. And that seemed to be the message. And then they also turned them on in Russia at one point and absolutely terrified the Russian soldiers that were responsible for their weapons. And then they turned them off just before it was too late. Again, I guess indicating to them, if we have to, we can do one or the other. And so that I think that the nuclear question, the fact that we are back into a threatening situation for nuclear war, like we were in the 60s. I mean, Danny and I remember we were afraid of a nuclear war in the 60s and 70s. I used to have nightmares that it was happening. These sounds of explosions and stuff. That was very common in those times. And now here we are again. where they're talking about building an entirely new whole range, a whole new amount of nuclear weapons, more advanced, more developed. Before we were de-escalating, and now we're escalating again. This is, I think, of great concern to the ETs, and I think they're taking steps to be more visible. They're taking steps to work more with humans, to work collaboratively, to get disclosure to happen. And I think the nuclear question is very central to this, but it's also the environmental, because they value the genetic material. And they have said over and over again, you are destroying your biosphere. You can't do this to your environment. It's too much pollution. It's climate change. All of these things are happening, and you're doing them. And this planet is a valuable planet that gives you everything you need to survive. Why are you doing this? So I think that these factors that are really existential threats for us as humanity, that we've created ourselves, both of them, are part of why it's happening now. And there is we need a leap in consciousness, and through that leap in consciousness, which can come with disclosure, can come practical new solutions for our clean energy, for the pollution of our planet, for demilitarization and stopping this whole nuclear race. All of this can flow. Transparency in government responsibility for all our tax money. I mean, these are very serious tax diversions that have happened here. All of these practical solutions can flow from a new consciousness that can come from disclosure. And I think it's happening now because we're right on the brink of doing something very damaging to the entire planet.
Thank you,
And
Sarah.
the Kogi know it. You know,
Mhm.
the Aboriginal people, the whole, there's a whole film called The Heart of the World, where the Kogi people have come down out of the mountaintops in Colombia to come down into the world to tell us about this, so that they know that the planet is dying. And that it's coincident, both the dying of the planet from the global climate change and the contamination, the pollution that we're engaging in of our whole biosphere, and the threat of thermonuclear weapons. There's the trains are all coming into the station here. There is this moment that is occurring. It's been talked about. It's been prophesized about. That this is coming. That this is the eschaton. This is the moment of the potential second coming that they talk about. It's the rising of from a Christian point of view, rising of the Christ consciousness in all of us by the evolution of this biological faculty that some of the Aboriginal people have concentrated on in central, made central to their religious practices, etc., in the deepest jungles. But this has now got to come out into the world. That we've got to raise our consciousness. We've got to be prepared for this. We've got to turn away from thermonuclear war. We have to turn away from the burning of the fossil fuels, ruining our planet. We've got to reach out to the stars. We've got to welcome our neighbors. We have to evolve. We are going to evolve to the next stage in our biological evolution. We've come all the way from a single cell life form all the way up through the chain of life to Australopithecus, to Homo erectus, to Neanderthal, to Cro-Magnon man, and here we are as Homo sapiens, but we're getting set to take the jump to the next level of our biological evolution. This is a trans-historical moment when we're going to move to become citizens of the galaxy and of the universe. So this is an extraordinary moment. We're all privileged to be born, at least in this incarnation, here at this particular time and place. So we get to be the ones. The 4% of the population of the whole human family that are Americans can vote to put people in power, to demand the full disclosure, and to amend all of our major institutions, domestic and international and geopolitical, to accommodate this information and to welcome our neighbors here. that we've addressed now, and there's an entire alphabet of different things that we know from A to Z to be true about the ETs and about the UFO phenomenon, which is known by our government, which they're not revealing. And of this entire alphabet from A to Z, there's only a tiny handful of the things that are being revealed by the government itself so far. They're acknowledging that the UFOs are real, but that they're maintaining what Richard Dolan, I think, has appropriately referred to is strategic ambiguity. about oh gee, we can't really figure out what these things are or where they're coming from. They could be this, they could be that. This is completely bogus on the part of the American government, because they know almost entirely what's going on with these UFOs. They've been taking into custody these UFOs for decades. They've had face-to-face contact with the occupants of the UFOs. They've had direct dialogue, telepathic dialogue with the beings who have shared information with them. So that there's a lot of these things that we've talked about before. And I just want to get this out in front of us right at the very beginning, that there's a substantial contrast between the dozen of things that have been revealed in the movie and the only tiny handful of a few of these kind of more ambiguous acknowledgments that have been made by the government so far. Okay, so look, I want to give maximum amount of time for the questions that people have. That you can see me at other occasions just kind of giving kind of overall analysis of these things. But I want to be able to answer the questions that people have who have gone to see the movie, people who haven't seen the movie yet, and who've seen the tranches, the three tranches of information that have been released by the government. And I know that you've got a lot of questions about this. And given the good fortune that I've had of being in fairly close on a lot of these things, and getting to represent Lou Elizondo and getting to meet with David Grush and and Gary Nolan and the other folks that are all involved in this thing, that I can share information with you in response to your questions. So let's go forward. There's a few questions that were left over from last week that people had asked that we want to answer first. That Olivia is going to read those to us, and I'll answer those, and then we'll get right to the live questions that you have. That's why the 350 of you that are here already have come here for this Sunday morning. Okay, so go ahead, Olivia. What are the questions that people have asked that from last week that we think we ought to get to?
Absolutely. So start us off. We have David Rode. He is our leader for the Southeast for Citizens for Disclosure, and here he is.
Hello. Hey, thanks for doing this, Sarah and Danny. My question, Danny, on a previous podcast of Third Eye Drops, you had mentioned a group called the Association. Could you elaborate on this group and discuss whether you have observed any similarities between the Association and the Breakaway Truth Movement group led by the character Hugo in the Disclosure Day movie?
Aha. Well, this not quite yet. They're not the same. What's going on is there is this group that well, of course there are competing narratives. There's a struggle over who's going to control the narrative of this information, right? And so that there's the whole legacy group that still is operational. That's, even though there's only some of them are as much as 93 years old now. These are probably the deep second or even third generation of MJ-12, the Majestic group that was actually appointed back in 1947 by President Truman, right shortly after the Roswell recovery of the craft. And that we know about that, and we know that they're still in existence, and they're trying to hold on. And there is this other group of people that are a very interesting group of people. They're not exactly coterminous with Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon and Lukatsky and Jay Stratton and the others who are trying to come forward and reveal detailed information about it, along with Eric Davis and the others. But there's this other group of people, in that they're made up of people like, for example, the vice president for intelligence of Boeing. There's the former Major General as the United States Air Force Director of Global Space Business Relationships. There is the chief strategist for the U.S. government in intelligence for Lockheed Martin. There's the former deputy director of the National Geospatial Intelligence Center. All these people are retired now. They're all retired. There's like 23 of them, but they've all been deeply involved in this. For example, there's the U.S. Air Force Vice Chief of Staff, the commander for all Air Force materiel. This is a person who's retired. There's the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Space Policy. There's the Vice President for Air and Space for the MITRE Corporation. There is the Senior Vice President for Kellogg Brown and Root, for example. These are people in private aerospace corporations, and people from inside the American government, people from inside the military who are retired, and they have formed this association, which is really quite influential. And they seem to be trying to draw the control over the narrative into their hands. But the problem is that they have a mirror group of people that's called the National Security Space, not Association, but the National Security Space Academy, which is out at the Peterson Air Force Base out in Colorado, which is the command center for the U.S. Space Force. And it's the Combat Command Center where they're training people to actually engage in combat operations against the UFOs. We've seen the document now that has been leaked out that we've gotten a hold of that shows that Arrow is now having combat officers assigned to Arrow, actually, which is supposed to be just the civilian group trying to help facilitate whistleblowers coming forward and getting information to Congress. But the fact is they've been assigned combat command officers now. So that's what this group is really all about. But there's this new competing group. You'll notice that this kind of slipped by everybody. But on the 12th of June, there was not only the release of the Spielberg movie, but there was the release of the third tranche of the documents. But there was this other subtle announcement that was made that kind of went by everybody. And the fact is that the executive branch has appointed a new governance board, UAP governance board, which is assigned responsibility for coordinating decisions as to what information is going to be released, how soon it's going to be released, or how long it can be delayed. And the kind of people that are going to be on that are the director of the director of national intelligence. As of right now, the acting director is Bill Pulte. That nobody wants except Trump in there as the director of national intelligence. He had nominated Jay Clayton, but the minute that they got ready to hold the hearings, Trump called and withdrew his nomination. But whoever the director of national intelligence is going to be on this governance board. There's going to be the director of policy capabilities inside the Defense Intelligence Agency. That's probably John Lombardi. The head of Arrow, John Kozlowski. We already know what the problems with Arrow is. None of the whistleblowers trust them anymore. The head of the DIA, Lieutenant General James Adams. The head of NSA, General Joshua Rudd. The head of the National Geospatial Intelligence Center, Lieutenant General Michelle Brendenkamp. The head of NRO, the National Reconnaissance Office, Chris Scalise. The head of the FBI, Kash Patel. The head of the FAA, Brian Bedford. The Defense Department or War Department's Chief of Intelligence Security, Bradley Hansel. The CIA director, John Ratcliffe. These people are competing for control of the narrative over what's going to be released. And that now what's the Senate? The Senate has made a proposal, as people all remember. They made a proposal in the UAP Disclosure Act that was passed by the United States Senate in 2023 to appoint 9 people to that board. but which was still heavily dominated by intelligence and military people, but at least allowed for an historian, a sociologist, a few other people. But there's a bill now that's been given over to the House of Representatives. Eric Burleson, who is the functional chair of the task force having to do with the UFO issue, a 58-page bill proposing a much more civilian-oriented panel to review this, made up of an expert from the UFO phenomenon community, a theological scholar, a United States constitutional law scholar to really understand what the rights of the people are to have access to this information, the rights that Congress has to have access to this information, a professional social scientist, a professional economist, for example, a physics professor, and just a couple of people from the American Foreign Service, that's State Department. Nowhere does shows up in any of these other proposals. There a State Department dealing with the fact that there's an extraterrestrial civilization all around us, so that these are the different groups that are competing now for this. So that's just in response to your question. But that group, the National UAP, National Security Space Association, is the group you got to keep your eye on. You're muted, Olivia. There we go.
Now?
There you go.
There you go. I said, I hope you guys are taking notes because I know I will. You're going to see the video back, and that's enough homework that he gave us to go down the rabbit hole for a month. On that note, we have Pat Dolan, and he wants to know, could the release of Disclosure Day push the president to raise the UAP disclosure issue during the November primaries, or is it unlikely to become a campaign issue?
Well, that's entirely up to us. One of the major objectives of the Citizens for Disclosure is to get all of the candidates for all 435 seats in the House of Representatives and for the 35 seats that are up for election here for the United States Senate to sign this pledge card. From whichever party, of the two major parties, or with a conservative party or liberal party or libertarian party, green party, any candidate for any of these offices to sign the pledge card, pledging that if they're elected, they will support full disclosure and rapid disclosure to the American people about the UFO phenomenon. Has been said over and over again by Eric Burleson, has been over and over again, has been said by Tim Burchett. Unless the American people come forward in major numbers and demand that this information be revealed in a rapid manner to us, in a full manner, they're going to back up and stop. Or they're just going to continue this ambiguous, this strategic ambiguity about pretending they don't really know what's going on. As Richard Dolan said the other day, he said, they know perfectly well. They could show you an up-close photograph, a total pixelated photograph of a UFO. They could show you a picture of the living being. They could bring the living being on just like they did in the movie, but they aren't doing it, and they don't have any intention of doing it if they can get away with it. So
That's right.
It's up to us.
That's right, Danny. So for those of you, you heard it here, go on the NPI website, click on where it says UAP Transparency Pledge, and have all of your friends and family fill that out because that's how we're going to be able to do that. We do have a question from TT Deng, and this is a question from the last Sunday series.
Okay.
Danny, she wants to know, can you list the content in the film that overlaps with what happened in reality? The technology in the film, how many of them are real and how or if will they ever be disclosed?
Okay. Let me see here. Let me grab the notes. There are 12 different specific things that have been revealed in the movie. Let's see here. There's a list of these that have been all touched upon by the movie. There's the 12 of them are, let's see here. I made the notes here. Number one, they've revealed the fact that UFOs are real. They've revealed the fact that they're interstellar beings, that they're organic beings. They rolled the guy out at the very end. Here he is, that these UFOs have been occupied by real beings. that the small grays and the large grays have been confirmed by the person that's been brought out. Very importantly, as Sarah has pointed out earlier, they emphasize the psychic capabilities. The telepathic capabilities and psychic capabilities of the beings are absolutely central to the revelation, that they can engage in telepathic communication and bilocate. Very, very important. And this is a key feature of the movie that overlaps with the reality as we know it. The ET beings have developed some type of technology that is able to super amplify their own psychic abilities. It's not a handheld little deal like they have in the movie. They've got this little handheld deal that the main bad guy carries around all the time, and that the main good guy has to respond to it. But we do know that they've developed a major technology that is able to super amplify their own psychic energy that they generate, even unto the fact that it is the means by which the ships bilocate from their star system to here. That's a key element. It was touched upon in the movie, this bilocation capability. They've also touched on the fact that the disclosure process is being accelerated because of the threat of a thermonuclear war. That's that kind of sub-theme that's behind the thing. That there are tons of sightings that have been made. This is at the very end where they've thrown up on the television screens all the videos of all the different things, that there are hundreds and hundreds and thousands of sightings, many of which have been videoed and photographed and stuff. Okay, and that they've recovered the craft. You'll notice that even though those are mock-ups of the videos of them actually physically recovering the craft, I've seen the photographs. I've seen the photograph in the classified portion of Project Blue Book showing the United States personnel actually there helping to recover a downed UFO that is plowed through this snow-covered field and stuck in this embankment. I've told people about that. They also reveal, which the tranches that have been released by the government have not, that there's this systematic program of the United States government to suppress people and to attack them and threaten them, even with physical violence. Okay. And of course, one of the big revelations that they've captured UFO beings and basically subjected them to extremely painful interrogation techniques. Okay. And these are all revealed in the movie, and they all kind of overlap with things that we know to be true. Now, from A to Z things that we know to be true, of those 26 of them, that we've gone through, there are a dozen of them that have been revealed in the movie. And as I say, in all three tranches so far released by the government, there's only like 4 things that have even been acknowledged, on their part. This kind of strategic ambiguity. They've acknowledged that the UFO phenomenon is real, but they keep on suggesting that they don't know what they are. They don't have any idea or where they came from. That's totally untrue. They've acknowledged that they're transmedium, that they fly in outer space and here and in the water. They've acknowledged that. They've acknowledged that they're surveilling the nuclear facilities. They've acknowledged that. And that they also point out that there are thousands of credible sightings. These are all that has been acknowledged so far by the government, as distinct from the dozen things that have been revealed by the movie.
But Danny, on that note, Brandon Nelson has a question about that. He wants to know, Disclosure Day showed a captured alien.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Are we in contact with a live alien currently, like right now? Can you tell us something about that?
Oh yeah. No, yes. We are in direct communication with live aliens, ET people, that they've been a number of them have been captured. The United States had developed this kind of scalar type weapon that can knock down the UFO once they can get it in their crosshairs, and they force them to land. And that they've recovered the crews of these craft, and they've interrogated them. They've actually developed a working relationship with a number of them. And very interesting, Lou Elizondo, of all people in the world, has most recently, back on, I think it was like June 11th or something, he was interviewed by Julian Michaels on her show called Keeping It Real. And he asserts that he in fact has talked to very high level United States intelligence officials and military officials whom he trusts entirely and have been very, very honest with him in the past, have asserted that they have seen the reports and they swear by the accuracy of the reports that there are UFO beings that have been taken into custody and are actually in communication with American government officials. Okay, so that this is a reality. I've interviewed face to face a person who's been present during one of these interviews, which I find to be entirely credible. Okay, so the answer is yes.
That's incredible. Well, Paris Moore wants to know, should experiencers trust sharing their experiences? It usually doesn't go very well. What do
Oh
you
yeah.
think about that?
Well, we've crossed an important threshold now. Now that we've gotten the United States government even conceding the limited number of things that they have, the reality now, people are going to start to turn, as Sarah has pointed out, to say, wait a second, what about all these hundreds and hundreds of people that have been telling us about their direct encounters with UFOs sitting on the ground and that they've been taken aboard and have had direct telepathic communication, that have been branded as crazy. And that they've been attacked by the national security state to try to ruin their careers and ruin their family relationships, actually be committed to mental institutions. What about these people? These are the people that we need to start interviewing now. And we need to protect them. Just like there are whistleblower protection statutes now that are limited, we've been asked, and our New Paradigm Institute has drafted the 15-page gold standard for protecting whistleblowers inside the military and inside the government circles and intelligence agencies. But there needs to be statutes also passed protecting these people. So they can come forward to Congress, they can come forward publicly and share their knowledge and protect them as well. And we actually are going to be representing a number of these people. We're in conversations with people who are coordinating a lot of the experiencers to come forward to provide legal counsel and protection to them. But we do need to have a statute passed by Congress providing protection to these citizens against government retaliation and against the retaliation on the part of the private security forces of the aerospace corporations.
And on that note, just to stay on the technology, Baylor law student Tegan Retzer wants to know that handheld bar in the film, does that have a correlation to some known technology or is it entirely fiction?
No, it's not entirely fictional. As I mentioned, there's no evidence that there's any kind of thing as small as that, any kind of little handheld device of any kind. But the technology by means of which they can amplify the psychic capabilities not only of the ET beings but of human beings is in fact true. This is true, and I've seen the above top secret classified documents showing that they have, in recovering the helmet from the craft of the Roswell crash, that they have figured out how to utilize that to amplify the psychic capabilities of human beings and to actually transmit over distances the telepathic subconscious communication of a human being to other humans. This was Pat Price that was done, and I saw this back in 1977. So I know positively that they've got that technology, but I don't think they have a handheld device that like the one they were portraying there.
Thank you. Now we have Giorgio here with us today.
My name is Giorgio, and I'm part of the Miami CFD group. How does the New Paradigm Institute plan to work with a Latin American perspective, which is less militaristic and more open to interact via contactees with more communicative extraterrestrial beings? Wouldn't this be more conducive to a peaceful public first contact strategy?
Yes. In fact, we have a major division that is focusing on Spanish-speaking people. Also, not just in the United States, but in Central America and South America, and in the Spanish-speaking countries in Europe. A very active and very creative division of the Citizens for Disclosure. I, in fact, just last week gave a major presentation to a Spanish conference, a UFO conference in Spain. And we view this as extremely important because the people in the Latin American countries and Central American countries are not so disposed to try to get access to the technology to try to establish full military spectrum dominance over the planet, like the United States national security state people are engaged in. And also the Russians and Chinese are, I think, focusing on the military application of these technologies in response to the United States government. So we've got to roll that back. We've got to roll that back. And one of the ways to do this, of course, is to push forward the narrative for a peaceful, upward, positive, forward momentum on our relationship with the extraterrestrial civilization all around us. That's the key to this. We have to basically outperform the national security state that is attempting to establish the narrative that people should be afraid or that this is some kind of a threat, and that the activity on the part of the UFO vehicles shutting off nuclear weapons systems and nuclear missiles rather than being perceived as some threat to our national security is a message coming from the ET beings that you've got to get rid of these things and stop doing this. Okay? Yes, so that we have a good active group working with the Spanish-speaking people of the world.
Outperform indeed, Danny. We have 15 countries right now, and the CFD en Español is for the United States. We have currently 268 members there, and it is run by Dr. Ricardo Ortiz. So if you want to know more about that, please shoot me an email, olivia@romeroinstitute.org, and I will connect you. Or you can always just go to info-español@citizensfordisclosure.com and reach out to Dr. Ortiz. He'll be happy to connect you with a country or a U.S. Spanish-speaking representative for Citizens for Disclosure. Next, we have a question regarding the movie, Danny. Julia Drake wants to know, this movie will no doubt touch many people, experiencers and others, emotionally in powerful ways. How can we, as an organization, as a people, help support our society collectively?
Well, the way to do this is twofold. Number one is the direct grassroots organizing and public education. That is where we remain in control, where we are not only pressuring the elected members of the House and Senate to pass legislation, which I'll point out and discuss in a minute, but the actual educating of other people, gathering together, having show and tells at the high schools, high school assemblies. We've actually had some people do this, to have a high school assembly where the authorities at the school bring all the students in, and they get a presentation made to them. We've got to do this at universities as well. We've done it at Yale University, and they've done it at the Ohio State University. We've got to start getting the citizenry involved, very importantly, and focus on our young people to get them to understand that assumption they've got that the UFOs are real and that they're peaceful, needs to be reinforced and supported, by other people in the society. And very importantly, in order to have it be society-wide, beyond what you can do locally, what we're trying to do is organize national gatherings, to have national gatherings and symposia, among the major UFO groups, ourselves, for example, the New Paradigm Institute, the UAP Disclosure Foundation, the Saul Foundation at Stanford with Gary Nolan and others, working all together to bring together national constituencies. And I'm going to be flying to Washington on Tuesday morning for a major meeting at the Senate Russell Office Building, and I'm going to be meeting with major religious leaders from throughout the country. We're working together to try to form an association of religious organizations in all of the different denominations, to come together to start sharing their information about the reality of the UFO phenomenon and the extraterrestrial civilization, and try to get some kind of an understanding of what the role may have been of UFO beings intervening in our human culture over the years. This is an extraordinarily important development that we're engaged in, and that's what we're going to be doing on both the national and international level to have major societal impact. But the key to start with is the local organizing of you people, of the 350 people that are here right now. Work through your Citizens for Disclosure group to get meetings in the public library, to show them copies of the Age of Disclosure, and get them to go see the movie Disclosure Day, have conversations about it in the public libraries, at the high schools, at your social clubs, at your Lions Club, your Odd Fellows Club, your PTA meetings. This is how you do it. If you're doing a political campaign on behalf of a particular set of policies or candidates, this is how you do it. You have to go and talk to your neighbors, knock on their doors. Hello, what do you know? have
That's
you
right.
seen have you seen the movie yet? You ought to go see the movie, encourage them to do it.
That's right. We got to get the word out. Now, here's somebody else that we have at the Imagine Museum.
Hi, Danny. My name is Emma. I'm from Orlando. My question is, in your opinion, what is the likelihood that what happened in the movie is happening right now to other experiencers?
Well, a lot of things are happening to other experiencers. You could, if you look at the movie and you were to take notes as to what's happening to those particular experiencers, they're getting chased and shot at and stuff. There's not a lot of that going on. There's been threats made in the past to people. The kind of threats of direct physical violence that are still active are against the people who are the kind of people like Lou Elizondo and Dave Grush and others who are from inside trying to reveal information that there's a number of people who haven't gotten the memo yet that they're authorized to be doing that. And so that the other people don't know any better. And so they're writing them bad, emails and threatening them and threatening to kill them and everything else. That's one whole set. But there's others who are in fact having direct contact with the beings. As we saw that Margaret Fairchild was getting telepathic communications from them. And we know that's happening. There's all kinds of direct. I was for 10 years general counsel to the Project for Extraordinary Experience Research in Cambridge with Dr. John Mack. And we talked to dozens and dozens of people whom we filtered through the different reports and found the ones we found to be most credible. We talked with very credible people that related having direct communications with extraterrestrial beings. They would have face-to-face contact with them, and thereafter would be getting communications, telepathic communications from them. That's what we saw happening with Margaret Fairchild.
That's true. And that brings up a next question from Renee Newman, who wants to know, Danny, many longtime amateur ufologists have expressed disappointment in this film. They're saying that it's all old material, although well produced. Is the value of the film mainly due to the general uninformed public, or is it for us, the experiencers?
No, it's mainly for the public. What's happening here is a lot of us. I've spent 50 years, in this, right from early 1977, right after President Carter was elected, and I've been, steeping myself in this knowledge, in meeting with people face to face who've had firsthand knowledge, and in vetting the witnesses and determining, for 20 years served as general counsel to the Disclosure Project with Dr. Stephen Greer. And did the same thing with Dr. John Mack earlier, of vetting the people. And so that the bottom line is that we're going to be sharing this information now with a much more general public. That there are thousands, tens of thousands of people in the country, out of 330 million, that are quite familiar with a lot of the information that was revealed in the movie. And also even more so with the stuff that's been revealed by the tranches of releases by the government. So there's a little bit of a ho-hum kind of response on the part of a lot of us, but the general public, they're just, in fact, one of the fellows that I talked into seeing the Age of Disclosure, for example, his response was, holy shit, you mean this is real? I mean if you had to have a quote for people that are all of a sudden it's dawning on them from the level of expert people that are revealing information to them, that's the quote of the day. Holy shit, you mean this is real? And see, once they get there, then they're open to looking into a lot of this. And that's what this movie is designed to do. The movie is designed to reach out to the people who have virtually no knowledge other than little bits and pieces, to really see how detailed the information is. Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, I just want to add to that we're in a race for the control of the narrative of this disclosure. It really, everything makes sense once you understand that. So as Danny said earlier, there are different elements, different constituencies trying to say it's about fear, it's about we have to develop nuclear weapons that we can fight the ETs with, and more nuclear weapons to fight one another. This is a narrative of national security, and this disclosure. Our narrative is this is positive. These people or beings could have killed us a long time ago if they wanted to. They're here for some important reason that we don't yet totally understand. But whatever it is, they're as concerned about our planet as some of us are, and they don't want us to destroy it. Probably because the DNA of this planet is so amazing, and they probably take it to other planets and grow trees and animals and people. So whatever it is, we approach it with an upward positive forward, and we are trying to reach as many people. And so we're very grateful to Spielberg as we can, because as the people wake up, then there are numbers, and that's power. The power of human consciousness leading to the power of voting people and the pressure we can put on our leaders to do the right thing. So this is really part of an enormous effort to steer the narrative away from violence and nuclear war.
Right.
Oh, that's so beautifully said, Sarah. And you know what, to encourage you on that, I want to give you a little bit of the Sunday series poll results that we have. 203 of you have already replied. That's 68% participation. So if you haven't, please do. There are currently with us here today 178 experiencers who have already had contact in some way. So that's an incredible number. Out of them, 188 have already seen the movie, so that means a lot of you have homework to do over the weekend. Make sure you catch the movie. But also, we have returnees. We have 130 of you who are here again, who weren't here last Sunday. Please keep putting in your answers so that we can get more numbers coming in. Danny, we have a question here from Emma Warbeck.
Mhm.
Regarding bilocation, does that mean yeah, this is a tough one. Does that mean the crafts are a projection rather than an actual physical craft?
No. The bilocation. This is an extraordinarily esoteric realm. But what we know, and most people here know, that there's the remote viewing program that was run by Hal Puthoff and by Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ, Pat Price, and those other guys. What they would do is they would, in fact, be able to give a person who is psychic a particular longitude and latitude, and that person would psychically try to project their perception to that place and relate in general what was there. Oh, a building is there, or it's by the water somewhere. But what they discovered is there were certain people like Ingo Swann and like Pat Price, especially, who could actually virtually transport themselves there and could see in detail what was going on, not just vague references was going, but describe in complete detail the blades of grass that are there, and actually propel themselves from outside of a fence to go inside the fence and inside the buildings and inside offices, even inside file cabinets, and read the files that were there. This is all detailed evidence that we can give you if you want to get in touch with us. But what they discovered, Ingo Swann discovered, is that all of a sudden people at the site could see that he was there. They could tell, and this is that part that you're asking about being kind of like a photoplasmic projection of yourself there. But the reality is, if you look into the history of this, let me find I've got a list of some of the beings here that we've got that have been able to do the by location. There are numbers of saints that have been able to do this. Let me see where I've got that little list here. Uh, Here we go. Uh, okay, Padre Pio and Saint Alphonsus and others that there's an actual capacity. This is far out. I mean, you have to have expected to hear at least something that you don't believe automatically right here.
Hi, Baba.
in Sai Baba, and that there are various accounts of human avatars that are capable of it's a psychic projection to begin with of projecting their consciousness to a particular location, and then the all important event of being able to astral travel to the location and actually materially manifest there. Okay, and so this is what's going on with the craft. The craft, given the what they call psionic assist, this technology that they've developed, where they can not only project themselves and the craft that they're in all the way from their distant star system to our solar system, and it then materializes here, and it's actually physically here. This is the extraordinary technology that is at the root of this here. This is not. This is you'll see in the movie. They had this fellow Noah Scanlon. He would remain in the chair where he was holding this little gizmo, and then he would kind of appear, kind of metaphor, actually kind of plasmic like in the other location, and he could then pop away and then be right in the chair all the time. This bilocation is that they can actually transport the craft from their star system to here. So it's not just a visualization. It's an actual craft. We have dozens and dozens of people that have reported getting on the craft. You can knock on the craft, like this. You can knock on the craft just like knock on wood. It's physically there. Now, this is vastly beyond any capacity that we think we have here. But I talked with Edgar Mitchell. Edgar Mitchell, I was up at Ions with him one evening when he was still alive, and he explained to me that one of his very best friends, whom I'm almost certain was Gordon Cooper, was present at, I think it was Edwards Air Force Base, and they showed him an experiment there that was going on, and they had this room with a table, and it had this kind of domed glass container. There was this device inside the glass globe that they took a Coke bottle, a Coca-Cola bottle, and they had Gordon Cooper write his signature on a little piece of paper and fold it up and stick it in the Coke bottle, and they put it under this glass. They stood back, and these lights came on, and kind of this kind of thing happened, and all of a sudden the Coke bottle just kind of slowly disappeared. And they take him all the way down the hall, several doors away. They go into this other room where there's another device like that, and he's there, and all of a sudden you can see it starting to materialize. They lifted the thing, handed him the Coke bottle. Hello, knock, knock, knock. Here's the Coke bottle. And he reached in and pulled his thing out, the little piece of paper, and there's his signature.
Holy
And
cow.
Physical,
Beam me up,
physical
Scotty.
transport. A physical transport.
That's amazing. And honestly, on that note, because I want to, now that we're talking, esoterical, Sean Logan has a great question. Now, this might take a little bit of meditation to answer, Danny, so I'm going to say it slowly. At the end of the movie, the alien is inside a cube. They open the cube, and then the alien is inside a dome. Then they open the dome. What is that symbolism about? Cube, dome, what are they talking about? Do you know?
It's not clear to me because I know that the direct conversation I've had with a person who was present for one of the ETs, that he was in this room, but there was no special atmosphere in the room. There was no special containment in the room. There was this big two-way mirror, so you could stand outside the room and you could see him in there. And he was like 6 feet tall, the big head and the big almond eyes. They had him in this like blue jumpsuit. I had him dressed, and the commander, a guy went in. Our guy, the human guy, went in to have a telepathic communication with him. And there was no special atmosphere for the being, no glass dome for him to be in or anything. And the same thing is true at Holloman Air Force Base back in April of 1964, when one of the craft landed right on the tarmac, and the being got out. He didn't. He seemed to have. He had some sort of a mask on, or like a covering over his face. He had some kind of a helmet on, but so he may have been having a breathing device. That particular guy. But there are dozens of accounts of the ET beings having no special equipment, no breathing helmets, no anything, that they are capable of breathing the air here on our planet. And so they don't need to be contained in any kind of contained vessel. In the movie, they may have been doing it for dramatic effect, just trying to keep him isolated or insulated from infections or other things that they do take great care about.
Well, if there's 188 experiencers listening to you right now, they know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
Um, Chad Mulholland has a question regarding that. He says, it seems that consciousness is a factor in UAP, and now science too has theories about consciousness created through meditations or material exercises. What are your thoughts on this way of reaching a higher consciousness?
Oh, well, this is an ancient one. I mean, this is the entire theory of the human religious organizations. Virtually all of them recognize this process of meditation. It's in all the monasteries, it's in the convents, it's in the Buddhist monasteries, and in the Hindu monasteries, and all the stories of the Hindu siddhas, sitting in a cave and meditating. It's an open secret already in the human family that there is this process. It was actually referred to early on by the ancient Greeks as hibernation. They called it, that you go into this kind of state of deep breathing and rhythmic breathing, usually chanting either a prayer or some type of mantra, and you establish an equal or a particular ratio of the taking in the breath and breathing it out and exhaling it, and that it starts to quiet the left side of the brain that does linear mathematical logical analyses, and it increases the alpha in other wavelengths of the brain being emitted, theta wavelengths, and it increases the photoplasma around your body. They did a series of studies at Downstate Medical School back in the mid 1960s about this with a number of meditators from different the TM people do things like this. So that this is an open secret inside the human family, and the beings appear to have developed evolutionarily, biologically, to the point where this faculty is all fully developed, like seeing and hearing, that it's here in our human beings. It's either been atrophied by our not using it as much as we one time maybe did, but this training, this mechanism of meditation, is able to revive it, to move it, to bring it back into fuller fruition inside an individual. And what this apparently does is what they discovered at the Downstate Medical Center studies, is that they concluded that the human body in this kind of state functions like a radio crystal set, and actually taps in to a unified field. This field that bonds every single ultimately irreducible integer of matter in the entire physical universe into one unified harmonic whole that constitutes the universe, and that you can tap into it in this stage, and it downloads information to you. and that you can tap into other individuals, other individual consciousnesses around the galaxy, and communicate telepathically over great distances with this. This is the open secret that the whole thing with the religious studies that have gone on for the last 10,000 years. That we track back in our actually recorded history, that we know that this evolving set of faculties in our human family are at the root of the whole religious experience, and that these avatars who have had these capacities more fully developed have displayed these charisms, or what they call siddha, of being able to do these kind of things that we see the ET people doing. So there's this direct correlation between the meditative experience of our human species and this kind of mystical experience that we have access to, and these telepathic capabilities and other psychic capabilities that the beings have.
Thank you so much for touching on that. A lot of people don't talk about the hemisync, right? That's what you're describing, the
Yeah.
ability to meditate and open up like an antenna. But I know that this particular audience gets it. On that note, I'm going to take it on to the religious aspect of that same topic.
Mm.
Kathleen Bailey DeVito, she wants to know, um, recent headlines show religious leaders referring to UAPs as demonic. Are institutional religious organizations involved in systematically representing the truth?
Well, there's two questions there. The fact is that it's the only significant religious leader who has made reference to the beings being demonic was fired by the cardinal, actually, in Washington. Cardinal McElroy, fired the fellow who was a Monsignor, who asserted, oh, he thinks that they're demonic, and he was fired summarily, saying that that is directly contrary to the teachings of Catholic social doctrine. Now I've spoken in the past with Cardinal McElroy. I'm going to be hopefully meeting with him again. That I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be flying to Washington on Tuesday, and I'm going to be meeting with a whole series of religious leaders there to start this dialogue. We attempted to get this dialogue started back in early 1977 through the Jesuit headquarters with the Washington Interreligious Staff Council, the 54 major religious denominations that have offices in Washington. We met with them with authorization from the Jesuit superiors, to actually instigate and initiate this conversation back then. So we're going to try to rekindle that discussion going on now. Eric Burleson has had communications from a number of people in the religious community being concerned about this. This particular perception seems to be coming from the extremely reactionary, conservative elements in religions, fundamentalist religious people. So there's this heavy correlation between their kind of social politics and this assertion that these are demonic. But the bottom line is, that if you study, as I did, at divinity school, these things, and was at Jesuit headquarters for 10 years, as a candidate for the Jesuit priesthood, the bottom line is that if you explore the entire theophany of demonology inside the Roman Catholic Church primarily, and others, that they don't fly around in mechanical machines. Okay, and it's absolutely clear these UFO beings, these are mechanical machines that they're in. That's why our government is capturing them and trying to reverse engineer them. They're made out of metal, and they're trying to analyze what the metals are made up of. They're trying to look at the kind of wiring that they have. They discovered the kind of wiring that they've got, the light. I can never remember the name of that thing. Photo electric wiring that they have. But they've analyzed all this. These are all mechanical things. The demonic beings as referred to in biblical writings, in gospel writings, etc., are not, in fact, flying around in mechanical instruments, and they aren't, in fact, engaged in doing the kind of benign things that the ET beings are. They aren't curing people. I mean, the ET beings, there's dozens and dozens of stories of people who had encounters with the UFO beings that have been cured of having diseases, etc. That it's elevated their consciousness. They've gotten to be much more psychic, much more compassionate, much more interested in helping other people in the world. This is not the activity of demonic beings, you know. And so I don't want to set up a dialectic with the people inside those religious organizations that are, flogging that particular theory. But the fact is, there's such a thing as being wrong, and they're just not correct, even by means of the actual historical details in the different religions about demons. They're totally not consistent with what the UFO beings are doing.
Thank you, Danny. On that note, Caroline Brown asks, how do you address the negative or fear-based conspiracy things that are out there in podcasts and different interviews? I don't know which one to follow.
Well, actually, there's this making choices is something that our human beings have to do all the time. They call it an epistemological challenge. You have to try to figure out who the authority figures are that you're going to listen to. What my job as an attorney, as a trial attorney, is exactly the same thing. Yeah, we come into a conflict situation where people are making different assertions about factual representations, interpretations of things. My job is to absorb all of that information, all of the pros and cons that people are making the arguments about, and then in good faith come to an analysis as to how we believe that those things shake down and present those to the jury. And then the jury is the one that gets to make the decision. Okay? So it's our people. Our people are the ones that are going to be making these decisions. Not the national security state people, who believe that, anybody coming within 50, miles of their major military base is a military threat, that they have to, throw them to the ground and cuff them and interrogate them. The bottom line is that we believe that if we gather all the information together and put it together and put forth the information which we believe supports an upward, positive, forward relationship with the ET beings, that is going to prevail. That most of the people in the country are not going to be persuaded by the rather silly arguments that are being made on the part of people believing that they're demons, or that in fact these beings are somehow threatening us because they turn off our offensive weapons, major nuclear missiles that are designed to annihilate tens of thousands of innocent human beings, which the Jesuit order has officially declared to be a mortal sin. The mere possessing of these thermonuclear weapons, because they're inherently designed to kill civilian populations. It's a total violation of the just war theories. The U.S. Catholic Conference of Bishops has issued the statements about just war theories that these violate. We've gotten the National Board of Homeland Ministries of the National Methodist Church to condemn the mere possession of these thermonuclear weapons. So the fact that the ET beings would shut off thermonuclear weapons or would take steps to stop thermonuclear weapons from being transported up into space, as they did in one particular instance of actually, knocking a missile down that was a part of an experiment in how to bring a nuclear satellite up into nuclear weapons armed satellite up into orbit. There wasn't one in the craft, but it was a step in trying to get that done. Those are the times that those kind of activities on the part of the ET beings is viewed as an aggressive activity or a combative activity only by people who want to establish full military dominance over the planet. And that's our problem as American citizens. We've got a national security state in charge of trying to establish full military dominance over the planet. And they've said so. in the 1992 United States Defense Department Policy Planning Guidance document under George Bush Sr. And his Secretary of Defense, Dick Cheney, and Paul Wolfowitz and Doug Fife and Scooter Libby and that whole crowd have in a super top secret document have announced that that is how they perceive their mission, to establish and maintain continued privileged access to the strategic raw materials needed by our country. And I've had direct face-to-face conversations with high-level military officials that unabashedly assert, well, look at, if there's some third world country that possesses some kind of natural resource that is of value, we'd better go take it from them, because if we don't, the Russians will, or the Chinese will. And we're saying, excuse me, let's back up a little bit on this and try to understand that our understanding of this is based in detailed factual information, and we'll provide it to you. You don't have to be wondering which of the narratives is more persuasive. We believe that the American people, when given this information, just like a jury, is going to come to the conclusion that what we're sharing at the New Paradigm Institute is, in fact, overwhelmingly convincing in this debate that's going on.
Thank you so much, Danny. And we have an anonymous concern here from somebody who says that they live on the US coast, close to the ocean, and every night, pretty much, there are strange morphing drones that take off and appear and disappear out of nowhere. He says he's surrounded by all branches of military and industrial complexes, by the way. So having said that, what do you think? Is that ET or human or both?
Oh, there's a great deal of activity on these U.S. military bases with devices that they've tried to use some of the technology that they've recovered from these ET craft to try to mimic some of their activities. And there are various stages of the activity, and so that they do these exercises at night. And so, figuring that people can't see them, but our people have started bringing out the night vision goggles and stuff, which, by the way, were recovered from the Roswell crash back in July of 1947. It's one of the very specific technologies that Colonel Philip Corso acknowledges as the director of foreign technology at the United States Pentagon, that he was put in charge of making available for people. So we have these night vision equipment, so we can see these craft flying around, and a huge majority of them give every impression of being U.S. military fabrications that are attempting to utilize some of this technology, and they're experimenting with them. Now, there are also a number of these that appear to be UFO craft. But again, Lou Elizondo, back in his June 11th interview with Julian Michaels in her show Keeping It Real, he has asserted that he has talked to high-level U.S. military personnel who have indicated to him that they have seen the reports of U.S. military personnel in U.S. military helicopters and jet fighters escorting actual interplanetary UFOs that they have recovered, and they've gotten some people to be able to fly these things. And that is indicating that they may be some of the kids that they have taken into custody years ago and spent lots of time training, who are psychic, who can actually fly these craft. And they've been at it now, so they've got kids that are now 21, 22, 23-year-old kids that are the age of some pilots that may be able to fly these actual UFO craft. So there may be some limited number of these craft that are actually UFO extraterrestrial craft that are being flown by these psychic kids that have now been trained and grown up to be pilots, but they're accompanied by U.S. military personnel. So this is almost certainly what this fellow's seeing.
It's
and
fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's talking to all of you gay kids. for those of you who are out there and are well experienced in all of this and are just waiting to come out of the closet. It's time. It's time to do it in a good way. And it's time to do it for disclosure. This question is for Sarah. Sarah, Vicky Yvonne Ayers wants to know, is joining the Citizens for Disclosure group an immediate, easy way for an experiencer who has PTSD triggered problems by the movie, by the way, able to receive support or guidance?
Ah.
Yes, we are moving in the direction of working in strategic alliances, strategic collaborations with other organizations in the world of science and therapy. Our goal is, we've been working on the Congress and getting disclosure through that vehicle, getting them to give us the information and put new policies into place. That has to continue. That's critical to all of this. But we're now really moving in the direction of how can we help be a voice for experiencers so that they have a voice. And secondly, how can we work with people like Yvonne Smith and other people on the planet, Barbara Lamb, who's given us all of her archives. She was the first therapist to work with experiencers and has spent 40 years with experiencers. She's now in her 90s. She gave us all of her archives. We have digitalized everything that's been taped, and we're now working on the notes of her therapy sessions with people and that are on paper. Once that's all digitalized and we've analyzed it and organized it, we're going to make it available to academic researchers and to reporters who are researching, etc. The point being, we want to help people understand that the experiencers are not crazy. It's exactly what John Mack said. Because when he interviewed hundreds of experiencers, because he was being asked as the head of the psychiatric clinic at Harvard, will you figure out what's wrong with these people? Because they're saying all these things, and they've been on ships and they've been abducted and everything. He interviewed all these people and he said, no, there's nothing wrong with these people. They're having these experiences. And you will see in the film, the experiencers, full disclosure, that has just come out, that I referred to earlier, interviews, clips and things that John Mack said. And Danny worked with him for 10 years. And he concludes, and wrote a book called Abduction. He concludes that folks are not, it's not a neurosis, a psychosis, or anything else. They're having real experiences. It's just that these experiences are not accepted in the larger society, and they're not accepted in the medical community. And so people get typecast right away as psychotic or bipolar or some schizoid affective or something. And we are concerned about that. First of all, we're concerned about all the, could be millions of experiencers who are alone, feeling alone, and don't want to talk about it because they don't want to lose their job or their neighbors or whatever. But we're also concerned that the medical community stops saying this. It's like the medical community used to say that if you were gay or a lesbian, you had a mental illness. That has been removed and changed. We need the same thing to happen in this field. We need the medical books and analysis and diagnosis documents and everything to stop saying that when someone has an experience with ET beings, that they're mentally ill, because they're not. and so we're going to be working on that policy front, just like we've been working on disclosure policy front. We're going to be working on the educational front, more people understanding what I'm saying, and we're going to be working on how we can enhance the voice of experiences. So as Danny was saying, we experiencer leaders of the experiencer movement have met with him and asked him to provide legal support for them. We're in dialogue about what that would look like and what they really need and what kind of teams we would have to put together of lawyers to help them. So all of this is going on, and I just want all of you to just know that this unfolding consciousness that we're all involved in includes the relief of suffering for what are probably thousands, maybe even on the planet, millions of people who have been had these experiences and are afraid and don't know what to do about it. And they're
Thank you,
now part of
Sarah.
our community.
Thank you so much. And let's not forget Dr. Barton, Melanie Barton, who is working specifically only with CFD volunteers that are actively, giving of their time to spread the word. She's meeting with them once every 2 weeks to just discuss the pressure, the PTSD aspect of it. We're not giving this as a medical service for liability reasons, but it is a space for you to open up with somebody who has experience working with experiencers. So to answer your question, yes, join CFD, become a volunteer, get activated, and come to the meetings that Dr. Barton is having. On that note, Rhea Metcalf has a question for both of you. She's saying, and I can attest to this because everybody that I spoke to came back and told me they came out of there crying when they watched Disclosure Day. So Rhea says, have many people come forward and said that they have had a physical reaction to the movie? At the end of the movie, I couldn't get my composure. I was shaking all over and I couldn't catch my breath. When I got up to leave, I literally couldn't walk. It shook me to my core. There was another woman in the theater that had a similar response. It felt nearly spiritual. Have you heard about this?
Yes. We've been getting reports like that. And these are, again, people who need to have someone with whom to talk about this, and to discuss what might be causing all of this. It's an extreme response that folks are having. But that I think that we're going to be trying to reach out to people in the professional counseling community to get them trained up, ideally starting with ones who are already up to speed on this, but to get more and more people to be available to meet with them and to reach out. And as we're handing out materials at these theaters where the movie's playing, we can hand out materials like that to the people who are having these extreme responses to the movie and try to get them in touch with people who can provide some assistance to them in helping to unpack what the nature of this experience is they're having. But we're getting sort of toward the end of the time here. But Sarah, what is your sense of this?
I would say maybe not so much at the theaters as if people sign up and become part of NPI, which is what the leafleting that is going on right now at theaters, is an invitation for people to join Citizens for Disclosure and it's actually at the same time NPI. And then they can contact us and ask for references because there are therapists who are very, very experienced now, Yvonne Smith being one of them. There's a wonderful woman in Australia who is highly regarded, who's a therapist. Barbara Lamb is in retirement, but she still helps people. And so we can tell people about available therapeutic services. MUFON has someone that they refer people to. So that can be done by us, but it'd be best for them to come into the NPI community, and then we can make references for there.
Okay. Okay. So we're getting toward that. We don't want to wear people out. We promised to meet with them for 90 minutes or so each Sunday. But I see Big Chris here who's got his question.
Hi, Chris from Ocala, Florida. First, I wanted to thank you for sharing your experience, insights, and knowledge with us because it really does make a difference to bring the community together and to help us collaborate towards something better. And my question is, what's your vision of what open disclosure looks like? Essentially, what things will look like after the second stage of disclosure?
Well, I think it's going to take a few stages, Chris. That we have had the first stage that's gone on with all of the conferences and symposia and everything that's been going on. All the way from back in 1947, basically, all the way up until and including 2017. There was that whole period which can call the first phase of the disclosure, where we as citizens have been attempting to disclose it to the world. Then you have the whole period starting in 2017 with Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon, who was the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, all provided the information to the New York Times and went on 60 Minutes. And then Dave Grush came out and started testifying to the congressional people. They've set up a committee now, or not a committee, but a task force inside the House Oversight Committee. So you're getting all kinds of official sanctions coming into to sanction this information in a positive way. And so people are now starting to talk about it a lot more. And now you got these movies coming out. You got this Spielberg movie. You got the major movie, the documentary that Sarah's been talking about the experiencers. I think that we're getting set to move into a kind of a focus, moving more away from all this nuts and bolts fascination about how fast they go and how they can, come out of a 90-degree turn going 40,000 miles an hour and then go into the turn and come out of the turn going 40,000 miles an hour. That's all extraordinarily fascinating. But the question is, like, who's flying these things? And where do they come from? Who are they? What are they doing here? And this is information that belongs to the experiencers. They're the ones that have had direct conversations with them, et cetera. So we're into that phase now. So the question is if we're in phase 3 now, if we're moving into phase 3 of the experiencers starting to be believed now about this, what we want to do is say we believe that the government itself, whether it be done under the Trump administration or whatever effort goes on for the next 2 years, they're going to try to conceal some of the key information about this, some of which has been touched upon in the movie, Spielberg's movie, but they're going to try to keep it concealed. And our job is to pour on every single effort we can through Citizens for Disclosure to make certain that the team of people that are coming in this year are largely going to be the people who were there last year. 95% of the incumbents are going to win. And so that we have to then be focusing our attention on 2028, because if this Congress that comes in here is elected on November 3rd doesn't do the job of bringing about full disclosure, we're going to have to make certain that the people that are elected in 2028 are the ones that are going to bring about full disclosure. And so that brings us to Chris's question of what's that going to look like? What's going to happen is the national security state is going to make a full court press in trying to get control of it and guide it into the direction of fear and defense, so that they can justify, massive military spending to try to prepare a military response to the UFO people. We have to mobilize the people in the religious communities, in the New Age community, in the citizen movement community, the civil rights, human rights community, all of the constituencies that we have to come forward with the upward positive message here about this, so that what's going to be happening over the next 2 to 4 year period is this major engagement on the part of our people as to which of the narratives is really going to rise to the fore. And my guess is that in the 2028 presidential campaign, you're going to find certain candidates feeling compelled to have to take a position on this, and not just on behalf of disclosure, but on behalf of what's going to be done about this. Not just, trying to pretend that they don't know what's really going on. They're going to have to level with us, that they know what's going on. And we have to start making amendments in our major institutions, our economic institutions, our cultural institutions, our geopolitical institutions on a planetary level, to be able to absorb this information. And very importantly, our religious institutions and spiritual communities are going to have to come to grips with this and join in the activity of preparing our human species to absorb this information, amend our general understandings of our place in the universe, and realize that not only are we not, as we one time thought, at the geophysical center of the entire physical universe, but we are not even at the apex of all sentient life in the universe, and we have to adjust to our place. and view this as a positive insight that we have, and learn from the extraterrestrial civilization everything that we can to bring ourselves to the next phase of biological evolution. That's what this is all about. So in a sense, the answer to Chris's question is we're on the brink of the next step in our biological evolution of the human family that has come all the way from Australopithecus to Homo habilis to Homo sapiens, where we are now. Okay, we're getting set to make the next step. And this is going to be a major step on the part of our human family. And I would hope that that means we're going to be much more spiritual, much more psychic, much more empathic, much more loving and caring. And we're going to have to adjust all of our major planetary institutions to accord with this higher consciousness. Yes, Sarah.
I'd just like to add, it's super important for us to realize we are sentient beings. And we are blessed to be that in the cosmos. It's not that we don't have consciousness in our plants and our animals and our birds and our insects and everything else, because there's evidence that there is consciousness there of some kind. But we are sentient. We can think and plan and make things happen at an entirely different level than the other living beings on this planet. We must never forget that we have a direct relationship to source, whatever source actually scientifically is, and that we have both our ability to think logically, plan, do mathematics like the young man in the film, and we also have our heart, which is a direct connection to this field, the quantum field, which holds everything. And so the relationship between our skilled thinking and problem solving and our heart, which is connected to the field, we have to listen to our heart because it knows what's harmonic with all that is and what is not harmonic. I mean, what is going to cause upset, violence, chaos, confusion, fighting? Our hearts know, oh, you can feel it. Oh, no, let's not go there. And our hearts know when they feel happy and good that we're on the right path. One of the things that will come from this next phase of consciousness is, number one, a direct reenactment, enabling of our relationship with nature. Nature, we are on a planet that provides us with everything we need to live. It has medicines in the plants, it has food, it has materials for making housing for us, it has everything. It has clean water, it has air. All of these things support life. And we've been given everything. And we have forgotten, we have lost a deep connection with nature that the indigenous people always had. And that has to come back because we have been pilfering and sort of raping and pillaging our planet and leaving our messes behind all over, toxic messes everywhere that create death, not life, but death. And the ETs have been talking to us about pollution. They've been talking to us about not killing our biosphere. They've been talking about not doing nuclear war because it's going to kill our biosphere. All of this has been happening. And I think we have to...
Please, you have to step outside. We're in the middle of filming for 500 people right now. Yeah.
What?
You want to grab it and go?
What?
No, it's
oh, I'm so sorry. I thought my mic was down. I apologize, Sarah. Continue.
Okay, so what I'm saying is our new consciousness that will come from disclosure, number one, we've got to return to a healthy relationship with nature. And what that means, it means a healthy relationship with supporting life, not death, but life. And secondly, it means that our new consciousness will give us new solutions to energy. We'll have clean and less expensive, if almost free. I mean, access to energy, which will completely change our economy all over the world. We will deal with our pollution and it will stop strangling us. We will have peace, and we will collaborate on the planet as earthlings, and we will have diplomacy with our galactic neighbors rather than prepare to, bring them down, capture them, and try to make them talk to us or whatever. I mean, we will start having a more harmonic understanding of our existence on the planet and our existence with others in the cosmos. This is going to give us the tools to have new solutions to our future. It's a beautiful thing, but we have to remember we do not want to be slaves. Not only do we not want to be slaves to dictators on this planet, we do not want to be slaves to anybody in some other planet. We have to stand in our own power. We have agency. We have to realize we are connected to the cosmos with our hearts. Our brains can solve problems. We live on a gorgeous planet that supports life. We have to stand in our power, so to speak. And we cannot be giving it away to anybody. But it does mean responsibility. We have to do things, and we have to take action. We can't just think. We can't just be entertained. We have to do our part. So as we have responsibilities as citizens and as voters, if we want to have freedom, and we have responsibilities in this area to not only expose the truth, but help create a positive future in various ways. That can be small, big, local, national, whatever. We listen to our guidance and do our part. So I appreciate everybody being here, and we're on a journey, a sacred journey together.
Amen.